Hello, this is Claus Jensen presenting one of my recent correspondence games played on ICCF. I've spent a lot of time on ICCF, which is the reason why I haven't done videos for a very long time. I've participated in the World Cup, in the Champions League, and in Master Norm tournaments, and I believe and I hope that I'll make my first international Master Norm very soon. This is a game from the Champions League Group B, and my opponent here was playing black, and he was rated 2356, and he opted for a Sicilian Dragon against my 1 e4, and soon we had a very theoretical game. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d, knight takes d, and g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3, castles, queen d2, knight d6. Classical dragon stuff up till now, and as most open Sicilians, the dragon has been heavily analyzed, and there are loads of variations which makes it very rich and interesting, but also very difficult to memorize over the board. I played castle long here, and the alternative is clearly bishop c4 here, preventing black from playing d5 and also occupying the long diagonal. But I played castle here, and it's a system I know quite well and feel comfortable playing it, which is more important than choosing the objectively best lines. Black here has the option of taking on d4 and bishop e6 here. Black then he has not compromised his pawn structure on the queen side, but white scores very well because his attack comes quicker than black's attack. King b1. A sample line could be something like this, h5. And now if knight takes, then bishop takes, knight takes, queen h6 is terrible for black. So in many lines, white gets the better game after knight takes d4. So d5 is a move. E takes d5, knight takes d5. Knight takes c6, b takes c6, and bishop d4. And this system is quite popular for white. It doesn't lead directly to kingside attacks like in the line we saw before, but it addresses the black dragon bishop, and the black pawn structure on the queen side is weakened. And this very position is an important theoretical position, and I believe the best continuation for black is bishop takes d4 here. Queen takes, queen b6, knight a4, queen c7, bishop c4, rook d8, bishop b3, bishop e6, knight c5, knight f4, knight takes, queen d3, e3, and knight f4. And I showed this line because this position was reached in Adams against Heine Nielsen in August 2011, and the game quickly drawn. In fact, Heine Nielsen's girlfriend, Smilite, reached the exact same position 5 months earlier, where she drew as attack against Rublevsky, who is a 2600 plus GM. So apparently, and in over-the-board master games, black has held this position. I also had this position in a correspondence game, and I believe I got a slight advantage. And I believe the plan for white must be to exchange rooks and play for a better endgame with bishop versus knight and good pawns versus bad pawns on the queen side. Perhaps not much to play for, but quite interesting, and some of the considerations you have to make in a correspondence chess. Another possible line for black, instead of taking on d4, like Heine Nielsen and Smilite did, is to play knight takes c3, queen takes, bishop check here, exchange of bishops, and black can only hope for a draw here. He can hold this endgame. In my game, my opponent played e5, and this has also been played a lot of times, but I believe the other options were better for black. But bishop c5, and now comes an interesting move which has been played a lot of times, bishop e6. This is one of those theory lines where black sacks the exchange, and taking the exchange here is very dangerous for white, in fact, because after bishop takes, the queen takes, and the threat now is bishop a6, pinning the queen to the king king goes, and then taking here, and with e4. Black has good initiative for the exchange. Queen a5, e takes f3, g takes. And now we can see those dominating bishops pointing down the white against the white king. So black has good compensation for the exchange. So instead I played knight e4, rook goes to e8, and h4. And even this position has been played numerous times, and black has several options. One option, which is a good option, is to play h6, because now he can meet h5 with g5. But in the game he played another move that has been played a lot of times, knight f4. Now the exchange of queens is a threat, so I go back to e1, bishop d5, h5. And now knight takes h5 doesn't work because of c4, and the black bishop is pinned to the queen. f5 instead, h takes, and now I went knight d6. And here, this has been played before, especially in correspondence chess, and queen g5 has been tried here. Rook making space for the rook, go to d8 here, and this was certainly an option. But in the game, my opponent played rook e6 instead. I played g3 to kick the knight, and if knight h5 here, then I probably should take here, because if takes, then the knight on h5 is hanging, queen check, knight back, rook b8. Looks as if it could give black some counterplay against the white king, but the computer likes b3 here. And after bishop takes, bishop c4, bishop d5, rook takes, c takes, bishop takes. And this is good for white, according to the computer. So, not knight h5. Instead, rook takes d6, g takes f4, rook back to d7, f takes e5. And this has been played 3 times in correspondence, in my correspondence database. And all games were drawn after bishop takes f3, threatening both rooks, bishop c4 check, bishop back, and then bishop takes, rook takes, queen g3, queen e8, rook takes d5, c takes d5, bishop d4, queen e6. This was a position that was reached 3 or 4 times in my database. But wait a minute, is there something better for white? Let's try to go back to this position. And in fact, there is a move that is stronger than just bishop takes d5 here. And the move is e6. And this is actually not only a strong move, it's also a novelty. And if we can see some of the ideas here, if queen g5 check, then bishop back to e3, and then there's a threat on both the queen and the rook. So that does work. And if rook e7 trying to give an exchange instead, then simply bishop back to b3, because the bishop is pinned to the queen. Queen goes, then rook g1, bishop takes, a takes, bishop check, king b1, g5, bishop takes, queen takes, and rook d7. And now the white rook infiltrates on the 7th rank, and this is clearly better for white. So in all lines, the rook has to go, and it goes to b7. And now black has a nice threat on b2. But one of the points of e6 was that now comes e7. Bang! It looks extremely dangerous to allow black to take on b2, and I don't think I would have played this line without having checked with the computer. Bishop takes b2 check, king has to go to b1, and bishop f6 discover check. And now, nice and easy, the bishop back to b3, and then black has to move his queen. He goes e8, she goes e8, and so now let's have a count here. White has sacked 2 pawns. One pawn. And what did he get in return? Apparently not more than a lot of open lines and files for his pieces. But this soon turns out to be more than enough. Black simply cannot hold the position. Queen g3 here. And if g5, then comes the nice rook takes d5, c takes, and then queen can go to d6, threatening both the pawn on d5 with a double attack on rook and king, and also attacking the bishop on f6. So queen g7, more or less forced. And now with king g7, then the bishop on d5 is no longer pinned, so the rook has to go, it goes h3, and now black gives the exchange to get rid of the annoying pawn on e7, taking here, bishop takes, queen takes, rook g1, rook back to e8. He could of course go g5 here to protect the pawn, but then queen h2 is very strong, threatening rook f7 check. Of course, king goes back here, then we could go simply rook takes g5, and then the queen would fall. But apparently even stronger is rook h1. But in both cases, white is winning. So g5 doesn't work, so queen has to go back to a8. Then comes rook h5, threatening the pawn on f5. Black can do no better than to go rook g8. White takes the pawn, bishop goes there, and now black can simplify further by sacking the exchange here, and with rook e1 he has a nasty pin, winning the bishop, which can do no better than give a check on c2. King goes, queen takes, queen check, and now we have reached this endgame. And it's always difficult when queens are on the board in an endgame, because there could easily be perpetual checks and stuff. But black doesn't seem to be able to avoid a queen exchange, and he can try go queen e4 check, for example. King simply starts wandering against the weak pawn on c6, and after a few checks and so the c6 pawn falls, and white will have an easy win. So black didn't try to give checks, he simply played king h5, and now comes g1 check, forcing the exchange of queens, and black could have resigned here. He played on for a few moves, which went like this, and in this position my opponent had enough and he resigned the game. Of course, I can play my bishop to c6, taking the pawn here, and if he tries to advance his pawn, I can simply give up my bishop for his g pawn, and I can grab the a pawn, and the black king is too far away to force a draw, and the end position is winning clearly for white. So this was a nice win for me, and in general I'm having a very good tournament in this Champions League, and although I was the third lowest rated in the group, I'm leading the pack, and in my 2 remaining games I need 1.5 points to score an international master norm. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on my chess website at klausjensen.com. Bye bye for now.